Nicks from the famous band Fleetwood Mac. Yeah, really incredible story for this band. They were founded in 1968, and they finally called it quits in 2023. Over that 55-year career, the band had 18 different members, and only 2 of the members of that band were constant from 68 till 2023. And the reason why I like the Fleetwood Mac kind of metaphor for franchising is, as you guys go to market and as you become franchisors, there are going to be mainstays in your brand. You as a founder are likely going to be one of those mainstays. You're going to have support staff that come and go. You're going to have people franchisees that come and go. But having you as a mainstay for your brand is extremely, extremely important as you guys kind of navigate that initial pioneer stage and bring in those first few franchisees. Quick story about one of their most famous albums, the album Rumors, 1977. These guys locked themselves in a recording studio in Sausalito, California. It's 1976. In their budget for that album, they had a line item for liquor and cocaine. I'm not kidding. As they entered that studio, John and Christine McVie, who were married, were divorcing. Lindsay Buckingham and Stevie Nicks had this crazy on-again, off-again relationships. They were off again as they were heading into the studio. And during these late-night liquor and cocaine-filled songwriting sessions, they were literally writing songs and forcing their significant others who they had broken up with to sing songs about their breakups. So Christine McVie has John McVie, her ex-husband, singing songs about Christine's new lover, who happened to be the band's sound and lighting guy. So in the midst of all of this, these guys produced this incredible music, and that is what, focusing on the music that they were making was the big why. Like, they were able to get through all of these interpersonal issues and all these struggles, because when it came time to hit that red button and hit record, they let all of that go and they poured it into the album. And I'm sure some of this is a bit of revisionist history or them just looking back fondly, but they've all been interviewed, decades later, and they all say that, all that turmoil and all that strife and channeling that into the music and maybe a little bit of the liquor and the cocaine was what fueled that album and made it what it was. So I think the other thing I want you guys to pull from this metaphor is that as you come into the franchising world, I want you to have a bigger goal than just growing the brand that you are growing. I think Sam provided a really good roadmap when he kind of gave his story. He likes to joke that he started in the back row at the IFA convention, and now he's made his way up to the speaker podium as the incoming chair. You saw all the businesses that Sam is now a part of. He's not just a part of East Coast Wings and Grill and Sandy Sliders. He's got supplier businesses, he has other investments. I have seen in about a decade and a half long career so many folks that come into franchising through their brand, and then you catch up with them years later. They are sitting on the board of another franchisor brand. They have launched a supplier company. So I don't want you to think of this as just the next evolution of your current business. Stepping into the franchising world, have a bigger goal. Have one of those Jim Collins big, hairy, audacious goals of how do I not only parlay my business success into growing it as a franchise, how do I step into a new opportunity? Because the franchising industry itself is an entirely new area for you to expand into. You're not just growing your business, you're growing yourself in this industry. And the one thing that I've learned from this industry is there is no shortage of opportunities, and there is no shortage of people who are here to help you. With that in mind, my name is Drew Chalfant. As Richie said, I'm the COO of Fran DevCo. If you want to grab that LinkedIn, that QR code, that just goes to my LinkedIn. Happy to make friends with everybody. That's going to pop up again. What I'd like to do is give you a little bit about my background. I'd like to tell you a little bit about what we do. Before I do that, I want to set a couple ground rules. One, I saw hands go up earlier of who has more than 10 or 20 units, and I only saw a couple hands go up. So I say this very humbly. That means that very few people in this room are franchise development experts. What that means is if you have a question, there is a better than good chance that multiple other people in the room have that same question. I'll pause along the way. Feel free to bring those questions to me. There are no dumb questions. I promise you someone else is thinking the same thing if you're thinking it. Okay, ground rule number 2. I never like these presentations. When I go to these conferences, this is not a commercial for Fran DevCo services. there is a better than good chance that we are not going to end up working together. Again, I say that humbly, that's just the math behind it. Like we choose a very small number of brands to work with. We are somewhat capacity constrained in that sense. So there's not a great chance that we will be working together. There are other FSOs that are out there that you can work with. There are also other development options other than using an FSO. So I want to make sure that I highlight what are the pros and cons of those different options. If FranDevco is potentially a fit, or if another FSO is potentially a fit, that's great. Highly encourage you to work with them. But again, not a commercial for what we do. I want to show you guys kind of the ups and downs. I also want you to be eyes wide open on what you are up against when you go to do franchise development at scale. Because I can tell you, when I first came into the industry, when I learned about the franchise broker networks, and when I learned about what it meant, or how candidates, how buyers actually explore franchises, it was very eye-opening to me, and how they actually go through the discovery process and how they look at multiple brands simultaneously. I want you guys to benefit from that kind of insider knowledge that I've gained over the years. Started my career in the early 20-teens. I was in-house counsel. I'm a retired, mostly rehabilitated franchise attorney. I was in-house counsel for a company called St. Gregory Development Group. We did franchise sales and development for a number of brands, a lot of them in kind of like the health, beauty, and fitness space. We got real big into boutique fitness in the early 20-teens. We also owned a couple brands, the biggest one being Cycle Bar, so that's indoor cycling fitness franchise. So we owned that concept. Not only did we do franchise development, we also had to raise the kids. So I had the benefit of 2014, I'm Tom cruising my way through law school, shaking margaritas for a living, went to school during the day, as we launched our first Cycle Bar franchise, first FDD, and then took that all the way through to a private equity exit. So again, very, very fortunate. I have a deep sense of gratitude for the kind of crazy formative experience. A lot of my law school buddies were drafting lease riders for commercial real estate firms, and I had this crazy front row seat to all this franchising stuff. So very lucky to have that experience. From that, I parlayed that into, I started my own law firm, so I was representing franchisors. A few years ago, Richie, I would have been persona non grata here. Richie would have not seen me walk through those doors. We were friendly competitors. Hung that up in 23, and I came on board at FranDevco. So at FranDevco, we are a franchise sales organization. We kind of position ourselves as a franchise development organization. FSO can carry some connotations in the industry, because as with any industry, there are going to be good and bad vendors, good and bad partners out there. As a development company, we ride alongside the brands at a little bit deeper level than just hired gun sales folks that are just going to dump a bunch of franchise units on you. Only really care if the franchisees can fog a mirror and stroke a check, and then tell you it's up to you to raise the kids. So we've got everything from, I've got a pet funeral and cremation business, to gourmet popsicles, to commercial vehicle fleet repair, to kids cooking classes, kids swimming classes, unclogging drains, and indoor padel clubs. So we represent a lot of different industries, and a lot of the FSOs that are out there represent a lot of different industries. All right. Before we get, if there is one big takeaway I want you guys to get from this presentation, is I want to clear up the difference between a franchise sales organization and what franchise sales professionals, whether it's someone you hire in-house or if you outsource it to a company like ours, and what we do and what brokers do. So just quick show of hands, who is, if I say franchise broker, franchise consultant, who has never even heard of those terms before? Okay, so everybody's familiar with brokers. Who's using franchise brokers right now? Who's in franchise broker networks right now? Jay, you're using brokers. Anybody else using franchise brokers right now? Nobody. Okay, awesome. So, franchise brokers, the metaphor that I like to use is a franchise broker is like a buyer's agent in real estate, okay? Those franchise brokers, they're the folks that are out there, they're posting on LinkedIn top 5 reasons to get out of the rat race. They are out there doing digital marketing. They want to find franchisee candidates, franchisee investors, and once they bring them in, they educate them on franchising, and then they kind of get an idea of what is their investment level, what are they looking to get into, and then they present a number of different brands to them. That candidate looks at those brands, and says, I'm interested in these ones, please introduce me to the brand. So the brokers are a lead source, right? And in that respect, that's why they're like a buyer's agent. They bring the buyer to the table. We as an FSO, we are the listing agent for our brands. If you are going to do franchise development by yourself, it's almost going to be like a for sale by owner. You are the listing agent for your own brand. So the distinction here, and again, I'm going to hit on this multiple times in this presentation. The real distinction is just who does what in your funnel. So deals that come in with a broker attached, that broker's job, and honestly, you know, when you see what brokers make on these deals, they make a pretty hefty chunk of your initial franchise fee. I will tell you that the good brokers, they earn every penny of it because what they do in those two phases is extremely important. Generating the leads themselves and then educating them on what is franchising and getting them to be, by the time they come to you, those broker leads, if you've done your job educating those brokers on who you want, they're going to bring you white hot leads that are interested in your concept, educated on what it is, and then they're also going to be, like, you're going to know that they're financially qualified. They're able to check those medic boxes that they can actually make their way from I'm interested all the way to the closing table, okay? In the organic channel, and organic just means there's no broker attached, that means that someone like my team is doing all of that from the top to the bottom. So we are doing the lead generation, we are doing the what is franchising, what is business ownership in general sometimes, and then we're working them all the way through the actual sales process for the brand. So, as you can imagine, that is time and resource intensive. So if that's going to be you, if you're going to do franchise development by yourself, you're going to be the one who is churning through those leads that come in, financially qualifying them, holding their hand through like what is franchising in general, and then you need to get them into your franchise process. So broker leads close at a much higher rate, and also they take a lot less time. We'll get into a little bit of kind of the cost differences of those things as well. So let's talk a little bit about what are your options for franchise development. As early emerging franchisors, I'm sure a lot of who's handling Fran Dev. So a lead came in today. Who, as a founder, is taking that lead? Is taking that first call? A couple hands going up. Okay. All right. So internal development. First option is just going to be DIY, and a lot of times this is what a lot of early stage franchisors do. You're probably pretty used to being a chief everything officer in your brand anyway. Might as well just stack Fran Dev on top of that, right? So as we just talked about, if you're not utilizing broker leads, that means that you are also your own admin. That means that you are doing the financial qualifying. That means that you are educating these folks. That also means that you're dealing with, amongst all the other things you have to worry about in your business, you're dealing with these folks ghosting you. You're dealing with these folks not showing up to calls. You're dealing with folks who, I mean, I hate to say it, but candidates are gonna lie to you. Like, they'll tell you that they have the funding, they don't have the funding. They will, they're so upset with their boss that they want to start working this process and they're actually not able or had no intention of ever going through it. So if you don't have someone who is front line on this stuff, you don't have an admin or someone who's doing this, you are your own admin on these things. So add this to your list of chief everything officer tasks. You need to be the one managing this internal development. So option number 2 is you grab a team. So you hire somebody, maybe they've got some franchise development experience, you bring in someone who already knows your brand really well and you work them, or you put them into a franchise development role. That can be successful. I've seen that work really well, especially when you have founders or you have team members who are true ambassadors, true believers in the brand, and they know that thing in and out. I've seen some operations folks from a brand transition into a sales role. They do it really, really well. What I'm going to encourage you to do, if you are thinking of transitioning someone from your existing team into a franchise development role, please pay attention at the very back end of this presentation. I'm going to walk you through kind of the franchise development process. It is very, very process driven, and when you have candidates that are coming to investigate your opportunity, especially if they're coming through the broker channel, there is a better than good chance that they are investigating multiple opportunities simultaneously. So what that means is you are competing not just against another brand and their unique selling proposition, you're also competing against their sales process. And because we're asking people to make these crazy large investments, they're going to be signing agreements that last longer than most marriages. that sales process, any fear, any hint of this company doesn't have their stuff together is going to be a yellow, if not a red flag for them if they're also working a process with another company that is unbelievably tight, buttoned up, step by step, and they know what they're doing, okay? Those are the internal routes. The other thing with an internal team, if you're looking to hire somebody who's a known quantity in the franchise industry, maybe you want to bring somebody on with an eye towards going into the broker networks. They put on their resume, if I was VP of Fran Dev for XYZ franchising and ABC franchising before that, I have all these broker relationships. Someone like that, I mean, they're gonna cost you anywhere from 150, it's probably gonna be about the minimum that they're gonna wanna have a path towards making. Now that could be made up of a base plus commissions off of the franchise sales they're doing. But they're gonna want 150 to get out of bed, and the really good ones are gonna want an eye towards 350 to 500. The really, really good folks, if they're gonna take themselves off the market and come in as a dedicated brand dev rep for your brand, they're gonna want an eye towards $500,000. They're really, really good ones. I will also tell you this, just as candidates tend to massage their questionnaires that they submit, a lot of Fran Dev professionals are going to massage their resumes as well. So when they tell you that they've got all these broker relationships, I would say, check references, find out, ask around. I love my Fran Dev people to death. I'm telling you, I've seen quite a few of them take down a half a bottle of Tito's, put a lampshade on their head, and fall off one of these tables at a conference too, right? So it's hard for you to not, if someone can look really, really good on paper, do your homework. Know that that person is going to be representing your brand. They're the front line of defense against franchisees coming in. Just make sure that you're checking references and kind of double checking to make sure that you're getting somebody good coming in if you're going to hire them as an internal team member. Main difference here, honestly, guys, is this is just W-2 on this side, and this is 1099 on this side. A solo hired gun is going to look very similar to an internal team member, an internal VP of Fran Dev. I'll tell you, a lot of times the solo hired guns are also going to want the freedom to work with other brands. The other thing about solo hired guns is make sure that if you're going to go with somebody like that, like have a really good understanding of what they're going to do and what you're going to do and what their expectations are as far as if they think they're coming in just to work that sales process and they're not going to do any admin, they're going to expect you to kind of provide all that back office support. Some of these hired guns aren't going to have a CRM system. They're not going to have a lot of the things that the bigger sales organizations have. So just be really crystal clear. If you're going to hire somebody on a 1099 basis, keep an eye on that scope of work and that services deliverable that's in their agreement. Make sure you really know. There can be hidden costs hiring a solo hired gun that if you don't suss them out in the investigation phase, you're going to be kind of surprised down the road when it's like, well, yeah, I mean, now we need to go get HubSpot, right? Like, if they don't come with that, make sure, just find out if they come with that. If that's included, if the batteries are in the box or not, with a solo or a hired gun. So next option on external development is a franchise sales organization, or an FSO. So, an FSO, a franchise sales organization, I mean, the big problem that we solve is that it's a complicated, you're all very good at something. When you are in your genius, when you're in flow, that is whatever your underlying service or product is, or managing the team that delivers that product or service, that is what you are best at. Can you become very, very good at franchise development and franchise sales? Yes, you can. Is it a better use and a higher leverage activity for you to outsource that, or for you to go down the road of becoming an expert at that? The other thing to keep in mind is that if you are going to use broker networks, and according to the latest annual franchise development report that IFA just put out, 50% of brands are using broker networks. If you're going to use those broker networks, the question is, are you going to be able to invest the time, energy, and money into building the kind of relationships that you need to build within those broker networks to get them to trust you enough to send leads your way? We'll get a little bit into that in just a minute. So what does an FSO do? If you hire a company like ours, or you hire a company like Dine Growth Group, if you're a restaurant brand, you hire Sam's Company or one of our competitors, our goal, the really, really good ones, and I'd like to think that we're in that category, is to really have take over the franchise development function for you. Still collaborative, you are still involved. We take away a lot of the stuff that you just really, really don't want to do. And then you're also renting our reputation. So a good FSO is going to go take you through an onboarding process that doesn't look dissimilar from almost as if they were buying your business. We need to know, when I take a client on, my team needs to know everything about that business, from the mission, vision, values, to the brand voice, to how the logos and the colors get treated. All of our brand and marketing materials, everything that we do needs to be a direct extension of the brand. Our goal is, when someone submits an inquiry about the brands that we represent, that franchisee candidate does not feel like they are working with Drew from FranDevCo, who is representing ABC Franchisor. They are working with someone from ABC Franchisor. Now, we're very upfront with these candidates that we are a development company that's helping them, but our team knows this brand so well. We go out and we visit the brand. We will sit through, if they're already franchising, we'll attend their current discovery days. We will go in and, it becomes like an episode of Undercover Boss. Our development professionals will get into the crawl space if they need to, so that they can learn about that brand, okay? What is really, other than, the ability to outsource just the time and the administrative headache and the hassle of having to manage the FranDev pipeline, what's the real secret sauce? What are you really, really getting? You're renting reputation is really what you're doing. If you work with a reputable franchise sales organization, or you are able to source a hired gun sales rep, or you're able to find someone who's going to come on as your VP of FranDev, one of the things you really want to find out is those relationships. Do they really have them, and have they really done deals with the broker network that you want to go into, or have they done a lot of FranDev deals? Because when we launch a brand, there is instant cachet, there is instant credibility when we launch that brand with these broker networks, because if you go into these broker networks, they don't know you. They've never sent you a deal. And from these brokers' perspective, by the time they submit a candidate to a brand, from that broker's point of view, and this maps to their funnel, they're somewhere in the neighborhood of $75,000 to $10,000 into that lead, just on the way they kind of measure costs of acquisition. By the time they submit them to a brand, they look at that as if they're handing $7,500 to $10,000 to you, because that is what it costs them to get a lead to the point where they are ready to get submitted to a brand. So if they don't know you and they have no idea of your ability to actually close deals, that's a very risky proposition for them. Whereas if your brand comes in with an FSO, they're now submitting that lead to someone on my team who they have already done 25 deals with over 3 different brands in the last 3 years. They know that FSO runs a tight process. They know that development director will get their hands dirty, will get down and help get these deals done. They know that they're working with a professional organization. So that's one of the real big upshots of an FSO, is you're really just time collapsing what it takes to build credibility and trust with these broker networks. Can you do it? Absolutely. Where do franchise leads come from? For anyone who's got a marketing background, this tends to be a little bit of a learning curve. Organic in the franchise world just means there's not a broker or consultant attached. So it's going to include everything from paid media to folks that come in because they are seeing that you're doing FranDev as part of your 4-wall marketing experience. Double click on that for just a quick sec, because that's a quick win for all of you guys. If you are actively franchising, if your FDD is done and you are taking on franchisee candidates, there is no reason why your consumer marketing should not have some aspect of FranDev to it. Your 4-wall, there should be, if you have a fitness studio, there should be a QR code. Interested in owning a blah, 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 stretch and fit, there should be a QR code there. If your invoices are going out for your tree trimming services, reserve a little bit of the bottom corner of your invoices with that link, that QR code. You never know what opportunities you are missing. Your customers of your underlying business already know, like, and trust you. you've already established some degree of a relationship with them. There is no reason why you would not utilize that relationship as part of your four-wall marketing for brand dev. Give you a quick example. I'm always kind of nerding out on this stuff. We were at a Asian food festival in Cincinnati with the kids, and we stopped and we grabbed Kung Fu tea, a little bubble tea. They had a little pop-up tent there. And they were just pulling pre-made boba tea, pulling it out of the cooler. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that the cups had a link to kungfutea.franchising on the cups. The straw wrapper had a link to Kung Fu Tea franchising. The little pop top on the seal top on the actual tea itself mentioned franchising. So I mean, is that a little overboard? Maybe. But they were seriously leaning into that four-wall marketing because all that's just customer facing. You never know who's walking through the door. You never know who's utilizing your services. They might not be the buyer. Maybe their uncle, maybe their brother-in-law, maybe their sister, maybe their mom. Who knows who they might know who might be interested? You're gonna miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? So I would say, quick win for you guys. Look at your consumer marketing. If you're actively franchising, ask yourself, is there an opportunity to create some four-wall marketing for Fran Dev in our emails and anything that we're doing? I would recommend integrating that. Organic deals, where do they come from? You are a brand builder. You really need to think about launching your franchise in a very similar way to how you launch your original business or how you launch a new location. Launching your franchise does not, getting your FDD done and having Richie send you that congratulations email, it feels really, really good. Celebrate, have that glass of champagne. Work's just getting started. That is the absolute beginning of your journey. So you really need to think of the franchising launch needs to be treated like a launch. It should be treated like a grand opening. Whether you're gonna go the broker route, whether you're gonna do everything on your own, just the organic side, you need to think of it as I have now made the decision to expand my brand. I am now responsible for being my own first follower, my own biggest fan and ambassador. So the phrase we like to use in brand dev marketing, and I know MJ is going to expand on this a ton, MJ from Top Fire Media, is everything works a little, but nothing works a lot. So the idea that you are going to go and spend 20 grand a month on Meta, and that's going to take care of everything, is not going to be as effective as, you really need to be thinking about, do we need to have a YouTube channel? Do we need to have a TikTok? Do we need to, again, the four-wall marketing, do we need to be doing pay-per-click? A kind of broad strategy that clicks on a lot of the main pillars of digital marketing are going to be more effective than trying to put all your eggs in one basket or just outsourcing something to a vendor. We tell brands and we tell founders, even the ones that are using our services for digital marketing and for lead gen, we are complementary to your brand building efforts. Like, you have not completely outsourced brand building. You still need to be the face of your brand. You still need to be kind of the chief growth officer of your brand, even though you've outsourced the franchise development marketing. So again, you can outsource this to companies like an FSO. A lot of the FSOs will do digital lead generation, digital marketing. Sometimes they will partner with another company. Like, we are aligned with Top Fire Media. They're a sister company of ours, so a lot of our brands are utilizing Top Fire Media's methodology to generate leads, and then we are the brand that catches those leads, and then you get them in the pipeline. I'll tell you a bit of a startling statistic that comes out every year at these franchise leadership and development conferences is, MJ, I think it's over 50% of franchise inquiries just go completely unanswered, or is it higher? Don't pick up the phone. Literally, like, people will have marketing, they'll have dollars deployed in the market, and inquiries will get submitted and nobody picks up the phone. Or they haven't gone through the process of setting up at least some sort of automated text campaign or automated email drip. They're spending money on marketing, leads are coming in the door, and no one's even calling them back. I'll tell you the other startling statistic that comes out is your chances of closing a franchise deal drop by 50% if you wait 24 hours to call that person back. I wouldn't be shocked, especially if we're back in that category of founder-led franchise development. Sometimes life just happens. And if you have decided to be your own Fran Dev rep and just add that as another of the 17 hats that you wear, it's going to be very difficult to keep up with. I mean, there's a reason why our entire company is built around nothing but franchise development. I mean, if you want to go through rapid growth, or you want to do development that's beyond just that pioneer stage, I mean, it needs to be something that you dedicate time and energy to. And if you're the person who also has to put out fires at your corporate store and you're expected to be the fran dev rep that answers the phone, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. The other place that franchise leads come from is the broker networks. I was very shocked, very shocked when I first got into the franchise world, coming in through the legal route. You know, we had taken some classes. Very few business schools and almost no law schools do anything on franchising at all. And I was very shocked when I found out that I'm telling you, by the end of this presentation I'm giving you, if you guys jumped online and you signed up, anyone in this room, by the end of this conversation, could be a franchise broker with no hoops to jump through. There's no governing body. There's nothing that you need to sign up for. And tomorrow, you could start soliciting candidates and asking them to enter into a franchise sales process where they would be expected to sign a 10-year lease, personally guarantee their obligations using their primary residence as collateral for that loan. It's the only industry that allows for this amount of money to change hands with as little regulation as there is. It's mind-boggling to me. So the reason I bring that up is inside of these networks, there are some really good franchise brokers and consultants, and there are some folks who, you know, they answer the phone and they, you know, it's almost like the old joke of they take off their hat. I'm sorry, what are you calling about? Oh, not travel services? Oh, you want to buy a franchise? Oh, absolutely. Okay, yeah, I'm a franchise consultant too. So there are these folks who are real estate agent, travel consultant, franchise brokers, vacuum cleaner saleswomen who do this stuff, and then there are people who are really dedicated to doing this. How are you going to know who's who? I mean, you have to get and build relationships within these networks. So there's a whole bunch of different networks. I will tell you that what a lot of brands do when they go to do the broker networks is they have this misconception that I launched in a broker network and, okay, great, here come the leads, right? I paid this, Fran Choice, $60,000 just to join their inventory. Some of these networks, we're doing budgeting exercises for our brands right now. We always start with just a fully baked budget, and then we get strategic of which networks do we want to be in. If you were to go into all of these networks, your annual Fran Dev budget, I think it was $268,000 would be what it is to join these networks and go to their conferences. That's before a dollar gets spent on travel, expenses, travel, and entertainment. So, do you need to do that? I don't think you do. And here's why. You are much better off if you are going to utilize broker networks, and especially if you're going to do them not with the benefit of a known quantity development rep or a known quantity FSO. You are much better off picking one or two of these networks to go into and then investing in building relationships in those networks. It is far better for you to go deep than it is for you to go wide. Okay, because when you go to these conferences, it's very easy to get lost in the sauce. Everyone's been to networking events, right? You walk into these networking events, everyone's got their little C-shaped circle. It looks kind of like this. These are fun, right? Walking up and hoping that somebody, you kind of put your hands in your pockets. You hope somebody asks you a question, asks you to introduce yourself. It's awkward, right? I'm telling you, that is going to be what your experience is like if you join these broker networks the first time that you go to these conferences. Nobody knows you. You don't have any friends. And they've all got folks that they played golf with the weekend before. They've been, drunk on their boat, last summer. These are actual relationships beyond just the business transactional side of things. A lot of these brokers are personal friends and have personal relationships with these franchisors and with these Fran Dev professionals. So when you go to join these broker networks, if you, it can be done. It 100% can be done. There are lots of brands who go in and they are very good at networking. They're good at that relationship building. They'll pick one or two of these networks. They will work their way into that circle, and before you know it, they are the life of the party. And I'll tell you, they might not have the best brand, they might not have the most unique selling proposition. These brokers work with people that they know, like, and trust. They are more likely to send you a lead, and they are more likely to send candidates your way if they have built a rapport with you and they believe that you are going to work collaboratively with them to get their candidate to the closing table. I say this really cynically, but I mean, the brokers honestly don't care what the candidates buy in a lot of instances. That's not true with all of them. A lot of them really see themselves as stewards for their clients. They build kind of referral-based businesses. There's a fairly large contingency of brokers who it's just a numbers game. If I can get 1,000 franchisee leads in at the top of the funnel, and I can get 500 of them qualified, and then I can get 300 of them introduced, like, they're just working numbers. And frankly, they don't care what these folks buy, they just care that they buy. So the calculation that they do goes back to that 7,500 to 10 grand that they feel they're into that lead. Who am I going to send this candidate to that I have a high degree of faith is going to work a tight process and is going to actually get them to the closing table? And that's what they send it to. And even if they know in their heart of hearts that I have something that I could show them that might be a slightly better fit for their lifestyle, they might do really great in brand A. I don't know the brand dev rep at brand A. I know who's at brand B. That's close enough. So I'm going to send them to brand B, and that's just how this game gets played in a lot of instances. Difference when you go with an FSO, when you go with a known quantity brand dev rep. This is what it looks like when they walk into the broker conferences. Again, I say this humbly with humility. I mean, this is what we built our business around: is hiring brand dev professionals, going to these conferences. I think if we're not careful, pretty soon we're going to have to put a divorce attorney on retainer. We send our people to way too many of these conferences and conventions, myself included. So this is what we do. We spend a lot of time on the road going and building relationships so that when we launch a brand, when we're representing a brand, we go to these conferences, it's all this know, like, and trust kind of stuff with all these networks. Just hit this one more time of who does what in the funnel and why you would maybe consider going with brokers. Is all of this stuff is very time intensive. So that financial verification, the candidate education, the lead gen itself, that's really what you're paying for with the broker networks. When it gets kind of the franchise process, there's not a ton of different ways to sell franchises. I can tell you that this is what we did at the development firm I worked at 10 years ago. There have been competitors that have shot off from that company. This is the process that they use. This is the process that we use. I'm going to tell you that going back to that slide about internal development with you as the CEO being the first phone call, one of the things that you might think that that's charming, and they get an opportunity to talk to the founder from day one. I will tell you, one of the other benefits to using, even if it's just you repurpose your existing admin to be that first call, it is not as charming as you think it is to have the first phone call be with the founder. It actually creates a little bit more of an impression of, what am I getting myself into here? The founder's answering the phone on franchise development calls. There's definitely a little bit of kind of psychological upside in gatekeeping yourself as the founder, CEO, high-level executives from candidates in the early stage. Should you be meeting your candidates before they're at the signing table? My goodness, 100%. Absolutely you should. Do you need to be the first call? Do they need to get the impression that you are your own admin and you're that is, having someone between you and them is a good idea. This is our franchise development process. It's a little small here. I'm going to break it down into kind of the first half, the high funnel and the low funnel. As you can see, this is the way we do it for Taste Buds Kitchen, which is the same way that we do it for Patchmaster, right? So the process itself, the framework itself, does not change if it is a kids experiential, make cupcakes for a birthday party, come and do, make butternut squash ravioli for a date night brand, brick and mortar retail, same general process for our home services brand. There's some jazz that gets played at any of these stages. The Patchmaster buyer is not the same. The messaging that goes out to them, the cadence of that messaging may not be the same as a brick and mortar business. But generally speaking, the way that we want to approach the franchise discovery process is not Pick up the phone. Yes, I'm the founder. Oh, you're interested in buying a business? Yeah. When do you want to come out and see it? Do you want to fly out? And like, that's not the way that I would recommend doing this. And again, I'll tell you, especially if you're going to go down the broker route, your candidates that you're talking to are also talking to another brand or sometimes multiple brands, and they are working this very defined process. The other thing that this process does is it helps set the stage, and it helps set the relationship off on the right foot. It helps you determine if you have someone on the phone who comes in and they start showing you how smart they are and all the things that they want to change about your system, or even they want to change about your franchise discovery process, when they show you who they are, you should believe them. Because if they're not even willing to walk through the cattle pen that you've built in the franchise discovery process, what's going to happen when the chips are down 2 years into the franchise relationship? They are not buying a business to tell you what to do. They are buying a business to run the playbook that you have created for them. So being able to work a franchise development process is a really good sign that they're going to be a decent franchisee. Early stage of the funnel, we call this the education series. The education series, first call is going to be the intro call. Intro call is get to know you, find out your why, what is your big, hairy, audacious goal with this business, what does this business allow you to do, what is your life going to look like on the other side of making this buying decision. All of those things help our development team determine two things. One, does the brand that we have on offer meet those expectations for you? Or two, are you actually not a good fit? We kick a lot of folks out early on in this stage because we don't need to waste our time with entertaining a candidate that's just not going to do well in this system. So intro call, then we get into the education webinars. We break these up into two separate education pieces. The first is just kind of a business overview. The way I like to describe that is it's a lot of sizzle, a little bit of steak. So we kind of show them this is the soft stuff. This is the mission, vision, values. This is the reason to believe. This is who are you partnering with? Who are we as people? Not so much how do we drive customers into your business? What does the tech stack look like? That gets saved for the next call. That's the support and operations call. That one, the ratio flips. A lot of steak, still a well-done presentation. There's a little sizzle there, but a lot of the meat and potatoes is in that support and operations call. When they make their way through that, it's time to start reviewing the FDD. The FDD review call. I will tell you, if you want to bore a candidate to death, it's a very unproductive call. Have them jump on an FDD review call and start on page 1 of your FDD and start scrolling. That's going to be no fun for anybody. I almost guarantee you only do that one time. The way that we do FDD review calls is we actually build a tool that it's a pro forma type tool. It's an Excel document that walks them through the key economic factors. Because let's be honest, guys, what they really care about in that FDD, how much can I make, how much is it going to cost me to get open, and what are you going to charge me along the way? And that really tends to be the main things that they care about. Should you encourage them to read the FDD? Sure. Did you guys read your FDD, right? You read it cover to cover, didn't you? Yeah? Yeah? No? Okay. So, in that FDD review, again, we use a tool that just kind of walks them through tab by tab. This is the initial franchise fees. Here's an item 7 calculator with the low and the high range. Here's a tool that you can put in your cost estimates to add it up. That feeds into a financing tab. And then we do use a blank pro forma that allows them to, based on the item 19, build some projections for themselves. There's a lot there from a legal and compliance standard. If you are interested in using a tool like this, I'm going to highly recommend you have it looked at by Richie and his team. What you do not want to do is have that tool be something that actually builds financial performance representations for them. You also do not want to be anywhere near helping them fill that tool out and build their own revenue projections. I'll tell you one thing that tends to trip up a lot of franchisors is they don't realize the nuance of when someone uses a tool like that or provides you any sort of pro forma, even if they build it themselves, and they come back to you and they say, hey, take a look at this, what do you think, is this reasonable? If you ratify that, if you say, oh, that looks great, I think your break-even calculation is good, and I see no reason why you can't get to those revenue numbers in 2 years, you've now made a financial performance representation. So if someone builds a tool and sends it back to you, hey, really glad that you put the thought into this, would encourage you to reach out to our existing franchisees to validate this, but I can't comment on the numbers that you provided. As a matter of fact, I didn't even open the pro forma you sent. All right, and then we get into validation. Validation, if you do not have franchisees, then the validation tends to look like a bit more of an executive call. So executive call is, if we have brands that have franchisees, we do both validation, where they're speaking to existing franchisees. If they do not have franchisees, the executive team, that executive call kind of merges with the validation. All right, so again, I mentioned earlier that having a little bit of a distance between the initial parts of the development process and you as the owner, CEO, founder is a good thing. We do not bring our folks, other than to just kind of report on metrics like, hey, we've got so many people in each stage, we go over that with our brands, but our founders are not meeting these candidates until they get to step 5 in this process. So that executive call allows us to go to our brands and say, hey, this person is financially qualified, they're working the process the right way, they've exhibited the right buying signals that we want to see, and it's now time for you to meet them. And we do it as kind of like, psychologically, it's a bit of a velvet rope, right? Like you don't get to meet the founders until you have earned the right to do so by jumping through some of our process hoops, okay? So if you are in that category of someone who doesn't have franchisees and you need to be the executive call and validation kind of collapse, again, get with Richie, get with your franchise attorney, make sure that you understand kind of the border of the sandbox as far as what you can and can't say relative to what's in the item 19. The headline here is, if it's not in the item 19, you shouldn't be speaking to it. A lot of franchisors will get tripped up on, well, hey, it's my corporate store that's represented in the item 19. Yeah, I know that it only shows financial data through the end of 2024, but it's my store that's in there. I can talk about how we're doing in 2025, right? It's a violation, and it can get you in hot water. So even if it is your store represented in item 19, you really need to stick to the 4 corners of that item 19. Can you talk about how we drove customers into the business, what new marketing initiatives we have going on, how we're innovating all the time? You can talk about operations. The train kind of stops at the financial data if you are going to function in that executive/validation for your own brand. Okay. From there, if they pass through they pass muster with the executive teams, that's when we get them into a meet the team day. Meet the team day it's theater, right? A lot of folks call it discovery day. The reason we call it confirmation day or meet the team day is you shouldn't hold anything back. Meaning, they shouldn't learn anything new at Meet the Team Day. It's not a discovery day. They're not there to discover anything. They're there to see that everything they learned in that education process, that there's a there. When you told them that there was an in-house marketing team in a call center, they get there and they say, oh, yeah, that's a marketing team in a call center. Like, there's no Perry Mason moment where you save the best for last. That's why I really like confirmation day. It really is that last final check of, it's relationship building, it's can I see myself having a beer, playing around with golf with these folks, like can I really see myself partnering with these people? You're not there to you're not there to hard sell them with some new bit of information. I also, some brands still do this. We find it to be a bit distasteful. The idea that you have franchise agreements, prepared in advance, they can sign at Discovery Day, kind of ring the bell. We're not a big fan of that. I know some brands do that, but I think that there's a little more gravitas that should go into. It's a pretty serious relationship that you're getting into. So the ring the bell thing is, let's say that for used cars and motorcycles. I don't think that works as well for franchises. And then there's signing day. We, as an offering that we do at DevCo, some FSOs do this, some don't, is we actually have an in-house kind of quasi-paralegal department that prepares agreements and has them ready to sign. We involve the brand's franchise attorneys if there's amendments or addendums or anything, but if it's just fill in the blank kind of entity name here, development schedule timeline there, our team will do that. It's just a deal velocity thing. We don't want to have to, no disrespect Richie, but we don't want to have to wait the 72 hours it takes you guys to turn around documents. 24? Is it? Oh, okay, so 24. So yeah, we just do it for deal velocity purposes while we have agreements prepped. I absolutely love this stuff. I will just double click on what I said earlier about there are folks that I've seen that have come into this industry and they have had one store, one franchise. It was them, a man in a van kind of business, and they then turned that into They are a multi-brand owner, and then they ended up getting one of those brands pulled up to the franchisor level where they became an executive and owner of another franchisor. They launched a supplier company. Like, there's no shortage of opportunity in this industry. So what I would really challenge you to do is really think a little bit beyond just the next level of expansion for your current business. What is that kind of bigger opportunity here? Because there's more here than just adding locations or growing your current business. There's a lot to bite off here. I recommend that you dive in. I've seen a lot of people create not just wealth for themselves, but take off on an entirely new trajectory, personally, professionally, and really change their family tree in this industry. And it excites me. It's why I do what I do every day. So.